Well. Good evening. Welcome to Hammertime. We are back. This is something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time now, I will say. Obviously, I'm going to have to change the layout of this a little bit. Obviously, we're going to have to make some changes because I'm on my own. I don't have any guests. I've kind of been left on my own, if we will. There's two of you currently watching. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. Share this across your social media platforms, and let's get into it. So, those that are new, those that haven't seen one of these shows before, this is where we review previous seasons. So this time round, we're doing the 2002-2003 season. It's not a great season. It's not going to be an interesting. It's going to be a rough ride. Let's put it that way. It's going to be a very rough ride. It's going to be one of those where, we talk about some difficult times at the club. Really, it's a season of very, very few highlights. I remember this one for a few personal reasons. I remember this season as being one that wasn't particularly enjoyable. Kick us off. I've got some just a quick little slide here. So, as we remember, the old badge there at the top. Obviously, we were still at the bowling ground at the time, Upton Park. And the kit that you see there, that you've got DeCanio and a young Joe Cole there. Very, very reminiscent of this season's kit, if you want, but obviously the badge. The away kit there, which is the white with the claret pinstripes, which I really did like, and I've got that somewhere signed by a lot of players. And then the away kit, the third kit, which everyone believes should be some form of the away kit. I like it. It has a very retro look to it. And that was obviously as we set out on this season that turned out to be quite a disastrous one in the end. If you take a look at the results, we lost the opening game of the season 4-0 against Newcastle. Really poor, really bad start to the season. It was we were dominated, and I think it was it Loa that scored two, I think, for Newcastle that day. Shearer bagged one, and Nobby Solano bagged the fourth. And after the previous season, when we'd done really well, I think we finished 7th. It's kind of a kick in the teeth as to how the game, as the season started. But then we end up playing Arsenal 5 days later, and Arsenal coming off the back of the Invincibles season, they hadn't. I think they hadn't lost. They hadn't lost a game in the unbeatable season. They come to us and we rocket into a 2-0 lead. I was watching the highlights earlier and obviously doing a little bit of prep work for this. And the goal, the opening goal, comes from Joe Cole right at the start, right at the end of the first half. Sorry, some brilliant football. It's kind of pulled back across the edge of the area to the right hand side, and he comes onto it with his left foot. First time, low sweeping shot, bounces once in front of Seaman and ends up, slamming into the back of the net. And we would rightfully 1-0 up. I mean, watching the highlights and stuff, we were rightfully 1-0 up. Hiya, Sharky. How you doing, my man? Becca, thank you very much. We go in a half time 1-0 up off the back of that goal, and we looked good, as I say, rightfully in front. We come out second half, and again we start to dominate. And I think there's a ball out wide, and Defoe doesn't give up. It's going out of play, and Defoe doesn't give up. I'm thinking maybe in today's game that's given us being out. On VAR, I'm not sure, but watching it as it happened, it was he keeps the ball in really well. Defoe, he doesn't give up, slides in, keeps the ball in, and then whips in a first time cross with his right foot. And for all intents and purposes, Keown should be the first one to it. He should be the first one to it, and Canute has a drive, a passion, and a desire to get there first. Keown goes for a diving header, clear it out for a corner, and Canute gets there with his boot just before Keown's head, and slams it past Seaman for a 2-0 lead that we were good for, and we continue to be on top, and we continue to push and dominate, and then an absolute piece of magic by Thierry Henry gets them back into it. And I will say, do you remember the goal he scored against Manchester United? Brings it in over his shoulder, hits it on the volley. That time was from the left-hand side of the pitch. This time he does it to the right. He holds off the defender, puts it over his shoulder, and then just absolutely slams this shot past the keeper into the back of the net. And it's an absolute peach. It really is a good goal. You can't knock it in the slightest. It was absolutely amazing. And then Arsenal doing what Arsenal did over the course of that calendar year and the previous season, kept knocking, and in the end, Sylvain Wiltord is a name. He picks the ball up on the left-hand side of the box and breaks into the middle, plays a good pass into Kanu, who holds the ball up, shields the ball from the defender, forces the defender away from the ball, and Wiltord just walks to the ball and puts it in the back of the net. 2 minutes from time. Arsenal have a couple of more chances in that game, but they go on to get the draw and obviously stay unbeaten. But according to, I think it was Brian Moore, the commentator, might be wrong, don't hold me to it, turns around and says that West Ham have been the only team to live with Arsenal over the previous calendar year. So, no one would have thought then, at that moment, on the 2-2 draw against that Arsenal side and how well we played, that it was going to end in relegation. It's even after the 4-0 defeat to Newcastle in the opener, getting that draw against Arsenal was makes it even more surprising just how badly the season went. I've got a couple of comments here. I've got from Sharky. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Sharky, looking back at the time, had so much hope for the league. And again, that second game of the season against Arsenal kind of reiterated that. We finished 7th the season before. We looked really good. We had a few England internationals in the squad at the time, including some up-and-comers. I mean, David James, Trevor Sinclair, Joe Cole, Jermaine Defoe, Glenn Johnson was in there, Michael Carrick was in there. But it was an absolutely disastrous start, and it only saw us win 3 out of 24. We were bottom of the league at Christmas with 16 points. And, that, as Sharky says, that good feeling there had gone by that point. He scored an absolute, but it was a cracking goal. And the horrible part of it, like Sharky said, was the expectation, was the hope, and it absolutely killed us. I'll bring up another slide that I put together, which I was going to wait, but I'll kind of chuck it up now. You can see just all the red in there. Those opening 20 odd games of the season, 24 games of the season. 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, 12. That's 13 defeats. It's awful. It's absolutely awful to look at. You do have to wonder. We end up with a win ratio of just over 26%. No wonder we went down. And yes, we went down with the most points in a 38 game season. Only Palace, who was the other two? Palace and Middlesbrough went down with more points than we did. 44 and 49, but that was in a 42 game season. So ours was only in a 38 game season. Now, when we did this before, myself, Andy, Gatesy, Steve, Jazz, the few guys to mention that we've had on the channel doing these shows, we all picked 3 games each, and we all spoke about those games, spoke about our memories from those games. And obviously I'm on my own, but I didn't want to change it too much. And I have my 3 games that I've picked that have some key memories to them. I'll bring up the first one now. So the first one with JMO and Tommy Repka there overseeing this one. This was our first win of the season. 7th game of the season. We go to Chelsea, we go to Stamford Bridge, and we actually put on a bloody good performance, I will say. We go 1-0 down to a Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank penalty, as you can see there, which it was a penalty. It was one of them stupid ones. I think it's Scott Minto brings him down. Hasselbank puts the ball in the back of the net. We go 1-0 down. Jermaine Defoe then scores a pretty good goal to get us back into it. But it pales into insignificance for the goal that Di Canio puts away. It's a very special goal. I've mentioned the goal by Henry in our second game. This one's up there with it for me. This was an absolutely sublime finish from Di Canio. So we get a throw out on the right-hand side. It's taken to him by Schemmel, and he tries to flick it over the head of one defender, and it kind of hits the shoulder part of the defender and bounces infield. Di Canio changes direction just so quickly, and it's something that makes the goal for me. He kind of brings it up with his knee, and about 30 yards out, just absolutely catches this thing, and it comes off of his left foot like an absolute rocket. This thing flies past Cudicini, and Di Canio does his celebration as to, like, you can't believe I've done it, but I know I'm good enough. Sharky says here he was at the game and he was sat in the Chelsea end with a mate of mine from school. Di Canio, wow, what a goal. And it's a goal that I will always remember, because it's the same as the Henry goal against Manchester United, the Henry goal against us. They're special goals. Payet's goal, the free kick, the Snakes goal against Palace. Special goals. These are goals that will stick in my memory. Di Canio's goal against Arsenal, when he over Keown's head and Adams comes in to take him out, and he puts it into the roof of the net. They're goals that I will always remember, and this goal from Di Canio was one of those. It was immense, and it literally you couldn't have made it up. You see there in the 74th minute, Zola equalises, and it's just brilliant. It really was a case of anything you can do, I can do better with regards to that, because Di Canio's goal was, for me, one of the best. and then Zola comes up with a free kick about 21 yards out and just puts this into the top corner. JMO, no chance. Literally, the lineup's there. Look, JMO, no chance. I think it was Repka that brings down. I think it was Good Johnson, and Zola steps up. He'd only been on the pitch 11 minutes, and this goal was just sublime. It really was. And to have 2 goals like that in the one game was just phenomenal, just absolutely brilliant. We win it with a Jermaine Defoe goal. With 6 minutes to go, he's put through and he puts it past the keeper. We win that one 3-2, and it's our first win of the season, and we'd lost some ropey ones in there. I know Becca's watching. We lost 2-0 to Charlton at home on the 3rd game of the season. It was one of many teams that did the doubles over us that season. We lose 1-0 at home to West Brom. We go to Spurs. We lose 3-2. And then we lose one more against against Birmingham. We lose 2-1 again at home to Birmingham. Stern John scores twice. And, it's awful. It's awful. We win 2 more, both of them away. I mean, for the record, we don't actually win at home until the 29th of January, when we beat Blackburn. And that's awful. For those that have been supporting West Ham for a long time, we remember this. We remember this season. I have a personal reason behind it, and we'll get to that towards the end. Just want to touch back on the goal that Di Canio scores. I don't know if any of you teeth back in. I don't know if any of you remember the TV show Dream Team. I think it was Harchester United with a side. They played in a purple kit. A bit like a prelude to Ted Lasso. And they used a technique called rotoscoping. And it was where they overlaid the kits of the team that they were. So Harchester, like I say, wore the purple. It was on Sky One, Sharky, yes. It really was. And they used that game. And West Ham were Harchester in that game that they used. They used footage from the EFL. They used footage from the Premier League, Champions League, the Cups. They got the permission, and that was the game that was used in one of their episodes. And I think it was the captain that they used to score that goal that Di Canio scores is scored by their captain in that show. And again, stupid, but I just remember it. And I was never a fan of that TV show, yet that still sticks in my mind. Skipping forward then to after Christmas. We're bottom of the league at Christmas, 16 points. And again, we have to wait until January the 29th for our first home win. Can you imagine doing that now? Can you imagine the uproar that would be from the West Ham fans? There's a lot of West Ham YouTube channels out there, and I watch a lot of them. And there are, I think we're all of an age where we remember this season. Some of us might have been a little bit younger than others. I remember this. I think I was 34. I would have been when this season happened, or at the culmination of this season. I would have been 34. In fact, we drew 1-1 with Manchester United the day after my 34th birthday. There you go. It's a hard one, especially after the last few seasons that we've had. A few of the younger supporters probably wouldn't necessarily take to this sort of season. I know we didn't, and we jeered and we booed, and there was a lot of bad blood between the fans and Glenn Roeder. who was in charge at the time. God rest his soul. Obviously, he passed away. I think it was back in 2021. Obviously, after fighting that brain tumor for a number of years. And as I say, there was a lot of bad blood towards the guy. My second game actually comes back in October, so I have skipped forward a bit. But back in October, our second away win was the Sunderland game, and it's here. And again, this is a goal, a game that I remember because of the goal. This is a game that I remember because of just being kind of open mouth, kind of gobsmacked. You know, that Trevor Sinclair's goal in this game ranks up there for me. For those who would remember his overhead kick, his bicycle kick, this ranks up there with that for me as a West Ham goal. It's a great ball through from Di Canio, and he races through and he absolutely slams this thing at pace. Roof of it, I think it hits the bar, kind of skims the underside of the bar, comes down. He hits it with some pace, and it's a very, very good goal. You know, again, it's the reason the game's there because in this is because it's the goal that I remember rather than the game itself. Our second win of the season, we actually ended up winning 3 out of 4 off the back of that, and only losing 1 in 5, only to go on a run of losing 3 more and not winning then from the Fulham game on the 23rd of October to the Blackburn game on the 29th of January. So, you know, when we talk about a 26% win ratio, and we talk about just how bad the first half of this season was, that was Howard Wilkinson's first game in charge. He was up in the stands on that one. A lot of big names were banded around for that job back then, and Wilkinson was the one that was given the job. I think it Peter Reid had just left after 7.5 years in charge. Awful season. I'm going to get me third game out of the way so I can continue to talk about how the rest of the season went. So my third game is this one, and it's the one where we beat Blackburn Rovers on the 29th of January, as I was saying. And it was, in essence, it was like a catalyst after such a shit start to the season. It was like a catalyst, and we only ended up losing 3 more games after this victory, which is what gave us the chance of staying up. In the 14 games, it was 7 wins, it was 4 draws. But one of the defeats is what costs us, and we'll come to that in a bit. But Defoe scores in the 89th minute, and you could see what it meant in the celebrations that they'd got, or they were going to get, a win at home for the first time that season. You could see that it meant a lot, and the passion and the outpouring and the relief for more than anything. And as I say, that pretty much kickstarted the second half of the season for us. That really was let down by one defeat. You know, we the following game we lose at home to Liverpool 4 days later, and then we travelled to 6 days later. We travelled to Leeds. We lose that one. Then we beat West Brom. Yeah, I've got to bring that up for you so you can see what I'm looking at as well. So then we beat West Brom, and then we beat Spurs, right? And you can see the run of green in there. We gave ourselves every opportunity to stay up. But it's that game there against Bolton on the 19th of April that we lose 1-0. It was JJ Okocha in the 38th minute, because I remember feeling sick, because it ended up putting them 2 points clear of us, or the 3 points clear of us at that point. and we needed, something out of that game. If they hadn't have won that, we would have stayed up. It would have been quite simple. If we could have got a draw there against Bolton or even won that game, we would have stayed up. We got relegated in 2011 when I was 4 years old. I couldn't remember it. Yeah, be grateful for that. Be grateful for that. I remember that. To be honest with you, when I go back to when I was younger. I'm not quite sure how old Sharky is, but he's probably remembered this. It was Sharky. It was a kick in the gut. It was awful. I remember when we were a yo-yo club. I mean, this season ended 10 years in the top flight for us. So the reason that this one was personal for me was the final game of the season against Birmingham. Let me come back off of this screen. The final game against Birmingham, we watched at a local sports club. Myself, my younger brother, he was 10 years old, my younger brother. And we watched this game together, or we watched the scores coming in. And it was horrible. Because at 10 years old, as I mentioned a moment ago, we'd been in the Premier League or in the top flight for 10 years. So he didn't know any different. He didn't know the heartbreak, if you will, of getting relegated. And when we got relegated, he cried. He was, I held him into me. But he cried at the time, and it was horrible. I felt upset, don't get me wrong, but I'd seen relegations and big defeats and shit for years before. So it didn't, although it upset me, it didn't affect me in the same way that it affected my younger brother. And that is something that always sticks. It's something that always sticks. A bit like the goals that we've mentioned, a bit like the other bits and pieces that have gone on. That's the reason this season sticks in my mind, is because of just how upset my younger brother was at the end of the season. And it was rough. It was a rough one, just because obviously it was my brother's first relegation. So, and then we had the league table, and there it is. Take a look and kind of understand, if you will, why that Bolton result was the one that finished us off. We went into that last game of the season, and they were 3 points clear of us. No, they weren't. We were level on points. Sorry, 41 points. We were 11 on points. We needed a 7-goal swing if we both won. As you can see there, like the 17 goal difference, minus 17 goal difference that we got. So we needed a 7-goal swing if they won. They beat Borough. I think it was 2-1. We drew that stupid bloody result against, like I say, it killed us. I think it was Horsfield scored on 86 minutes. Di Canio scored on 89. And we were down. It didn't look like we were going to survive. There wasn't going to be anything else that we could have done. There you go. Yeah, it certainly was, Sharky. Sharky's 36. Or 36 now, Sharky. So, yeah, you'd have been probably, well, you're 2 years older than my brother, so you would have been 12 at the time. So you probably, kind of remember it, I suppose. And you don't understand how Ricotti ended up going to Bolton. You know what? You're not the only one, but he weren't the only one that was kind of like those, a big name. I remember, was it Yuri Djorkaeff? Did he go there? Was it him? The French striker. Was that his name? Djokovic. I'm sure it was. With Big Sam. I don't understand how we. Yeah, I'm not sure. If we beat Birmingham, we would have stayed up. No, not necessarily, Josiah, because obviously the 7-goal swing. Even if we got the extra 2 points, it's the goal difference. We needed to score something like 8 more, or have the swing against Bolton. It was, yes. There you go. Thank you, Sharky. And then, as I say, the season ends like it does there, and it was a rough one to take. It really was. We ended up going down, and when I do the next one of these shows, we'll talk about what happens. Obviously, the following season. What I will say, despite the fact that we had a manager and a team that was just absolutely diabolical, Glenn Roeder actually won manager of the month. I think it was for March. He won manager of the month for March. And if I go back to the results, you can see why. The end of January, at the end of February, right up until April, we were unbeaten. So we ended up with 2 wins and a draw in kind of that time there, which obviously gave him manager of the month. But then after the game against Middlesbrough on the 21st of April there, Glenn Roeder collapsed. I think it was after giving the press conference. He was rushed to hospital, obviously diagnosed with a brain tumor, as we now know, and he was replaced by Trevor Brooking as caretaker manager. Now, if I remember rightly, Roeder wasn't starting Di Canio, and one of the first things that Brooking did when he came in as caretaker was reinstate Di Canio into the first team, and it had a decent effect. I mean, I think he scored in the final 3 games, I think. And it was horrible. It was horrible to see. That one. Yeah, the Chelsea game late. Yeah, we went mad. Again, it was the celebration of, what more do you want me to do kind of thing. I'm back. I'm here. As for the season as a whole, one of the stats shocked me. 380 games were played in the Premier League that season. 1,000 goals were scored in the Premier League that season. It's quite amusing. We scored 42 goals in the league that season. Out of a possible 1,000 that were scored in the league, we scored 42. Of those, Di Canio scored 9, and Defoe and Sinclair got 8 each. And when you look at the side we had, when you look at the players we had that season, we've always been known as the team that were too good to go down. 42 points, the highest in a 38 league game season. Players like Di Canio, Carrick, Cole, Canute. We had David James, Trevor Sinclair. We had an absolutely fantastic set of players, and it still leaves me gobsmacked to this day how Roeder can go from being a guy that got us to finish 7th. Our best, I think we finished 5th a few years beforehand, but our best finish for quite well, and it was our best finish for quite some time as well, wasn't it? To go from being there to here and being relegated, just absolutely, I still cannot fathom what went wrong at the club. I just can't get my head around it. It absolutely bemuses me. If we take a look at the top scorer for the Premier League was Ruud van Nistelrooy. He scored 25 goals that season. Most clean sheets was Brad Friedel with 15. The average attendance for the Premier League that year was 35,000. We had a total attendance over the course of the 380 games was just shy of 13.5 million. It's amazing. And you've got to bear in mind that was the time when you had grounds like Highbury, which was only 30, I'll say it was only 38.5. Well, it's 60 now, isn't it? 60 plus at the Emirates. We had St Andrews in there, 30,000, Blackburn 31, Bolton 28, Charlton 27. When you consider now the sizes of some of these stadiums, the bowling only held 35,647. We've got a stadium now that we average 64, 65. So that 13.5 million fans through the gates, I can imagine were being, would be significantly higher now. Player of the Year was given to where is it? It's not even telling me. It doesn't matter. There you go. PFA's Player of the Year was won by Thierry Henry of Arsenal. It was the Frenchman's first award of the season, and he the previous year, which was Van Nistelrooy. For me, like I say, it just brings back a lot of memories of tears, just desperation, kind of things that just wasn't to be, if you want. We like I say, we finished 7th. And we kind of threw it away. We had the makings of a really good side, and the sad part of it was, by the time Roda came back to take the reins off of Trevor Brooking, a lot of the players had already gone. We'd already lost Cole. He didn't contract. He went to Chelsea. Trevor Sinclair had already gone. Freddie Canute had already gone. I think he went to Spurs by that point. So it got a team that had been kind of decimated. We were in the Championship or Division 1 as it was. You had a player, which I'll cover in the next episode, which he didn't want to be there, Jermaine Defoe. To be fair, probably ill-advised, shall we say. So, it wasn't the best of seasons. We got absolutely spanked by Manchester United in the FA Cup. Again, a game I remember. Horrible, horrible game to remember. I remember watching it on TV, and I remember thinking before kickoff, we've done it once before, and the man's playing again. We can do it again. And we got spanked. I mean, Giggs 2, Van Nistelrooy 2, even Philip Neville scored. Gary Breen. Yeah, I remember. I'll tell you what, you saying that, Sharky, I will, the players that left essentially weren't necessarily significant, mate. If you look at it, Adam Newton, which was one of the young lads from the FA Youth Cup final, Raggy Soma, remember him? He left on a free. He never set the world on fire. Hayden Fox was actually Russie B from the West Ham Network. They did a West Ham's worst signings, if I remember rightly, and they put Hayden Fox in that. In their worst 11. And I remember him and Hanu Tahinen. Do you remember Hanu Tahinen? They played in, I think it was them two that played in the defence against Manchester United in the FA Cup game. When Barthez and Di Canio. Rigobert Song, Remember him? Defender, Shaka Hislop. He went on a free to Pompey. Craig Forrest and Gary Charles retired. Kitson went to Brighton. Potts went to Dagenham. Vladimir Labant went to Sparta Prague. And then the other two, Grant McCann and Laurent Courtois. But you're right in what you say, Sharky. The players that came in, we spent £100,000 that season. We bought Youssef Sofiane in on a free from Auxerre. Raymond van der Gaal from Manchester United on a free. Gary Breen in on a free. We bought in Edouard Cissé, the midfielder, in from PSG on loan. Lee Bowyer came in January from Leeds, £100,000. And then Les Ferdinand from Spurs and Rufus Breffett from Fulham on undisclosed fees. So maybe a little bit more than £100,000. But we sold Hayden Fox to Portsmouth for £400,000. So, like you say, Sharky, we didn't buy properly. Yeah, not necessarily agreeing with the latter part of that statement. We should have been moved on. I understand where you're coming from in hindsight. It's a great thing, but after the season he had, he was rightly, I feel, should have been given the other chance to go again. But hey, they didn't back him, as we've already said, and none of those players that I've just mentioned. I mean, Ferdinand scored a couple. Lee Bowyer did run his nuts off. He was a Canning Town boy and whatnot. I'm not sure if we would have got relegated if the board had backed. There you go, Sharky. Yeah, Cisse played for Monaco in the Champions League final. We have a habit of players like that, though. We're still doing it now. Good players that end up being crap for us. Haller and Skamaka recently, but that's not their fault. I was having a to-do with someone in the pub yesterday, a conversation based around players that come to us and are crap. Is it the club's fault or is it the players? It's the club's fault. It's not been scouted properly. You're not looking at a player that plays in the same formation and tactical setup as you do. They're going to be crap. But hey, we digress. I might cover that on another day. For everyone who's joined me for this return, I think I had 6 of you watching. I don't necessarily do it for the views and for the likes and everything else. I do it because I enjoy it. I do it because I want to make content. So thank you for coming along and watching. I will try and get these done regularly again. I quite enjoyed it. I'm going to see if I can get a couple of new guests to come on. If you do fancy coming on and being part of the next couple of Hammer Times, let me know. Drop me a message on one of the social media platforms. Thank you, Lewisham. And we'll see you again soon. I'll have don't forget to go back and watch the review of the Fulham game I did earlier today. I think that came out at 5 o'clock. So go over there. If you like this video and like that one. And no doubt I will see you again soon. Thank you all for joining me. Come on, you irons.